Good morning. This is Gidon Ariel saying hello to Dr. Richard Booker. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm so blessed, but I'm so distressed about the turmoil in Israel today.
Well, I guess that's what we're talking about today, aren't we?
Looks
Where are you
like
where are you getting your news from?
just there's so many different sites. You just click on different ones and
So
read
what's your
them and
favorite?
come up with your own conclusions. So
Well,
how do you
I
how,
I
how do
will
you
do my
see
best. Pardon me?
how do you see things playing out the next few days,
Oy vey, how about the next few hours?
the next few hours? Right, right. What time is it there now?
It's 5 o'clock, 10 to 5 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Evidently,
Okay.
there has been, amongst other things, there's been a big demonstration of the, how shall we say them, anti-government, the ones that are against the government and its positions and actions. Most specifically, its efforts to create and pass laws that will promote the policies that they want regarding the judicial system and its connection and relationship with the legislative and the executive. The government and its supporters think that the legislative needs to be changed significantly because it bit off much more than it is proper to chew. And most of the opposition, not all, well, I'm not saying this right. Some of the opposition agrees with some of what some of the changes that the coalition is trying to pass. But for the past few months, they've just been working themselves up into a frenzy in a way that is very difficult for me to understand, frankly. The frenzy includes a lot of demonstrations. Now, when we go to demonstrations, we would stand there with signs, and a lot of my friends I see on Facebook are doing that. They make nice signs, their kids make signs, and they stand behind police line, do not pass metal borders or whatever those things are called. And but so many people are just going crazy, and they're running into streets and blocking roads and blocking the main highway of Israel and setting fire to things on the highway. I'm just going crazy. What is going on? Why is that okay? Who can think that that's okay? I can't understand it.
Human beings very seldom act rationally when they're emotionally fired up.
Okay, so you get emotionally fired up, and then you go to sleep, and you wake up in the morning and say, okay, now what? Let's get back to, okay, I had a nice night's sleep, I had breakfast, had some cold water, I took a shower. I'm not so emotional now. What's next?
Well, if you're driven by an agenda, you don't think in logical terms like that.
I don't know. I think I'm driven by an agenda. I have agendas, but I try to be logical, and mostly, I'll tell you, my main agenda, as anybody can see if they read to the bottom of my sig line on every email that I send out, is happy are those who have discovered that the secret of life is to be nice to others. And so you just want to be nice to each other. That's all. That's why I'm not so outspoken. I see plenty of people. My whole Facebook is all full of people arguing and saying these guys are bad. And I don't. And this is why it's important to think what I think. I don't share what I believe so much on Facebook, because how is that going to benefit anybody? It's only going to benefit the people on my side who are going to say, oh, look, Gidon's on our side also. But they know that I'm on their side. And the people who are not on my side, either they know that I'm not on their side, or they're not paying any attention to me. So why should I draw attention to myself to say, you know what, I disagree with you, let's argue. That's not my style.
I've lost you here. There you go. Now you're back. Okay.
Oh, after I just gave that whole speech, you lost me.
No, I heard the speech. I just couldn't see you. Well, you know, there's a beautiful proverb in the book of Proverbs, paraphrasing it. It says, someone's views seem so clear until you hear the other side. So this is so true. So it would be nice if the two sides could sit down and find the obvious areas where they agree, and at least implement those policies.
When you say the two sides, who are you talking about?
The government side and the anti-government side.
So are you saying like let's say that I agree with the government, so I should be one of the players in the sit down together?
Well, I don't think you're a policy making person. So
again, who should do the sitting down? I'm getting somewhere here.
The leaders of the
elected parliamentarians from both sides. They're the ones who should talk to each other.
Absolutely. So I'm sure that that there's a certain percentage of the reforms that they can both agree to, and any reform is better than none. Sometimes
no, not any reform is better than none. There are some reforms that are better than none.
The ones they agree to is what.
Of course, any reform that they agree to, yes, absolutely.
Right. So it's not always easy to go from 1 to 10. Sometimes you have to go from 1 to 4. So if you can find those things that they can agree to and let the others shake themselves out as they will along the way without polarizing the country.
I think that the point of the opposition was to polarize the country.
I think that this is very similar to what we have in the U.S. when very similar. We have 3 branches of government here in the U.S., executive, legislative, and judicial.
Us here.
And our founding fathers, recognizing the tendency towards humans to be less than honorable, the evil inclination, you might call it, put in these 3 forms of government as a check and balance against extremes from either one of the groups. And this is why in our country, it takes a long time for our government to ever make any decent decisions, because they debate it forever and hardly ever come up with any decisions. But it's that way on purpose, to minimize extreme ideas taking hold of the country. So in our situation, it's been some have believed that the Supreme Court, which is supposed to make decisions based on the Constitution, was more activists based on the whims of the day, you might say. So when former President Trump was trying to appoint more conservative judges to maybe balance out the court a little bit in some people's views, the evil things that were said against these nominations for a Supreme Court justice was so right from hell, so demonic, so lying, just total lies. And this, caused great upheaval in the country. So it's very similar to what you have there. And it's unfortunate that human beings can't find what's the better good and work together for the better good. They have to fight against each other all the time.
What are you talking about? Human beings can work for the better good and don't have to always fight with each other. I spend most of my time trying to work for the better good with other people and not fighting and barely, if ever, fighting with anybody else.
Unfortunately, that's not the history of the human race.
Starting from chapter, was it chapter 4, I think? Chapter 3? No, it's probably chapter 5 when Cain killed Abel. Let's see what chapter that was.
It's right at the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning, yes. So this is why we need the righteous judge of all mankind to be ruling over us and not us making our own, being a God to ourselves.
It was chapter 4, by the way. Genesis chapter 4.
Okay. So unfortunately, the history of mankind is not finding the common good, but pushing through our own agenda, regardless of the consequences. So God's in charge. He'll see that it works itself out. Amen. Unfortunately, we bring a lot of our suffering, most of our suffering, we bring on ourselves and blame God for it. How could you allow blah blah blah? Well, we did this to ourselves. So, but BB's in a tough spot right now.
It seems that he's been locked up in his room since about 8 o'clock this morning, writing the speech that he was going to deliver at 10 o'clock, then at noon, and now they're talking about it at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock tonight.
Seems like I read somewhere that he was ready to back off some, and some of his coalition partners whispered in his ear that he would not have any coalition partners left if he did that. Is that accurate?
Partially. Those coalition partners don't know how to whisper.
That's true. Very good.
But we'll see. The media here has been hammering, just pumping it out that what they want us to think. Sound familiar?
Sound familiar, doesn't it?
Exactly. But and so they were saying, well, obviously Netanyahu is going to say that he's withdrawing and he's surrendering. But I don't know. Netanyahu usually does not do what people expect him to do. That's what I've seen. I've been a Netanyahu watcher for a good few decades. So, but I don't know. Nobody. That's what we're going to wait until he talks, and that's what then we're gonna know. But I, for one, am hoping that he will not withdraw. But whatever will be, will be. I believe that God's in charge. I think I heard that today. I think you said that before. And I think that we might go down before we go up. Sounds better in Hebrew, I think. But ultimately, we're on a upward trend, and I think that God is in charge. And if anything bad happens, it's in order for there to be something better afterwards.
Well, that's a very good view of it, and I think it's an accurate view, and I think that's the way it's going to work out.
Huh? So there you go. So what are we talking about?
Hey, we actually came to an agreement on something. How about that? Miracles.
Imagine that. My debate partner all these years.
Who said that miracles don't happen anymore? We're actually in agreement on something.
Talking about miracles, we're coming up to the holiday that the festival that celebrates. I was going to say the first miracle, but the greatest miracle, the greatest the most important miracle of the Jewish people, and that is that God was able to take his people out of the land of Egypt with a strong hand, an outreached hand, And he ultimately brought that people of Israel to the Mount Sinai, where he gave them the Torah, which is his guiding document. And since then, about 4,000 years ago, we've been, some of us better, some of us not as good, but trying our best to follow that document and to praise God and to thank him for being our God who loved us so much and loved Abraham so much that he brought his children out of Egypt, where they were slaves. And as we say in the Haggadah, in the text that we read on the night of Passover, that had he not done it then, till this day, we would have still been slaves unto Pharaoh in Egypt.
Well, God is a faithful covenant-keeping God.
And not only that, that's for sure, but not only, I'm now thinking, not only would we Jews still be slaves, but the entire world would still be slaves. Because thanks to the Jewish people who were freed that night and then were able to do throughout history all the great things that the Jewish people have done for the benefit of humanity and humankind, that's why other members of humankind were able to succeed as well. If you go and look in deep, dark Egypt, there are some places there, not Egypt, Africa. Egypt, I thought Egypt because Egypt is part of Africa. There's some places there where you still have slavery.
That's very true.
So tell me what country in the world do you still have slavery in an advanced, developed economy and society? You don't. So if the original slavery, which was the prototype for the slaveries and especially the redemptions from slavery, had not happened, had that slavery, if we would have still been slaves, then as we say in the Haggadah, in the book of the Passover Seder, we and our children and our children's children would still be slaves to this day. That is not something that just the Jewish people have to say. It's every person who is grateful to live in a forward-thinking society, if I may say, in a Judeo-Christian society.
That's the right phrase, in my opinion, Judeo-Christian.
Mm-hmm. So that's really something for everybody to celebrate.
Well, absolutely. And of course, as a Christian, I see, for me, the ultimate celebration of that is through Yeshua. But he's a Jewish man too, So true Christianity owes all that we have to the Jewish people. And we certainly should recognize that and stand in support in any way we can of our elder brothers from the first part of the Bible, you might say.
I'll bet that you said that sentence countless times to Christian audiences.
More than I could ever remember.
not counting the amount of times it's been printed in a book of yours that somebody bought, which is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, I'm sure. But really, I again, you probably told me this before, but I'd like to hear again. When somebody hears that for the first time, if there's such a thing still, but you've been doing this for decades. So when you got up on the podium or whatever you call it and say, if it would not be for the Jewish people, then we Christians would not be here today, and Jesus wouldn't be around, then we can only be grateful to our elder brother, as you said, to the Jewish people. And people who say, wow, I never thought of it that way. What can you remember such a situation? Does somebody's face come back to you when we think about that?
Of course. And most Christians just they don't think about these things because they're not taught that in their sermons from the minister, and they're busy with their lives. So thinking about these kinds of issues is not their everyday thought processes. but I am a teacher, a Bible teacher. I'm not a preacher. So I understand just from my gifting, that's important to put those kind of statements within a context. So usually someone like myself, we think explaining things is important, So a preacher has this wonderful gift of inspiring people. Teachers like to educate them and explain to them why they should be inspired, So when I make those statements, I usually also put them in context of why I'm saying that and why that's a true statement. So from a Christian standpoint, the Jewish people gave us the revelation of the one true God, gave us the Word of God, the Bible. As a follower of Yeshua, gave us the Messiah for us to understand him that way. And so everything that we have spiritually, we owe to the Jewish people. And so this is our statement of gratitude. We don't have to agree with people on everything to love people and support people. So
if we did that, we would love no one and support no one.
So that's that statement that I made that we've mentioned before to you that some people thought was important. We know that Christians and Jews have theological differences, but we don't have to agree on theology in order to love one another. And if we cannot love one another, what good is our theology? That's right out of the good book. It says, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, love your neighbor and the stranger as yourself. If you can't do that, what have you got?
Beautiful.
So this is how we try to live our lives, and with God's help, we try to share that idea with other people. Most Christians respond well to that. They've just never thought about it because it's not been presented to them. But when it's explained to them, they say, of course, and they change their ways of looking at things. I mean, we've got coming up here up in the Houston and Dallas area some big Holocaust education events that some of my former students are leading the way in.
March of Remembrance.
March of Remembrance. And so it's a wonderful way for Jews and Christians to come together on something that's very important that we share together. So when you recognize the things we're talking about, then you want to find a way to make that happen. So that's when we started our institute in '97. One of the things I was asking God about was, well, what is it that we Jews and Christians have in common? We've too much emphasizing the differences. Surely there's some important things we have in common that we can rally around. And so that's how we started our Kristallnacht memorials, because Christians didn't even know anything about Kristallnacht. And the Jewish community, they weren't observing it. They had their Yom HaShoah in the spring, not a Kristallnacht.
Yes.
So we had one every year for 18 years, L'chaim, to life. And I felt like we were helping the survivors give life to their story. So it made a major difference in a lot of people's lives. And for me, Peggy and I, we see that our students who are leading the way in these March of Remembrances, that this is an extension of the Kristallnacht memorials that we had all those years.
Absolutely beautiful. You are blessed.
In the Bible and in the books of tradition, it says make many disciples, right? So we have student disciples who are carrying forward these ideas to the next generation, and then their children are also taking their roles of responsibility as well. So
Beautiful.
some of the things that God helped us do have found their own life now, and Peggy and I are just watching and grateful for what He's enabled us to do, a little bit that it is.
In Yiddish, we say you're getting nachas. You're getting enjoyment out of that which you birthed such a long time ago, and now it has gotten wings, and the next generation and the generation after that are making it forward, and you can only stand to be proud of that.
It's always nice to see the grandkids. You can comment on that.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right, so we're gonna see what's going to happen tonight.
Okay.
You might find out before me, because I might go to sleep early. I don't think so. But next week, Bezrat Hashem, we'll be talking. It'll be a day or two before Passover. Something tells me we'll have what to talk about.
Yeah, are you going to be available then, or caught up with your activities?
I beg your pardon?
Are you going to be available next Monday, or will you be involved with all of your activities for Passover?
I just checked my calendar, but I'll check again because you're reminding me that my wife wants me to do stuff. Yeah, I think I'll be able to. Yeah. I've got it scheduled next week at the same time, and so we'll see you then.
And I'd love to hear all about your preparations next Monday.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great, blessed day.
Thank you. You too.
Shalom, shalom.